I presume you're here in order to learn of Magecraft. I'll have you know, there's no room for the weak-willed in this course, and despite your best efforts, the sorcery of our time is but a fraction of what it once was in the Age of Gods. Much of the craft is established through pedigree, and the culture of mages is riddled with deception and moral depravity. That said, if you insist, I shall do my best to educate you in this miserable, yet fascinating world. In our previous lesson, we went over the Clock Tower's lords and their respective departments. Beyond its internal power struggle, the Mages Association does offer a system of order and guidance for Magecraft over time. Without a rigid structure, it's quite possible the Magecraft of today would be significantly weaker, if not outright absent. This is due to the decline of mystery and the Association's desperate attempts to conceal it. I've mentioned it many times, but now we must focus specifically on mystery and why it needs to be preserved. To reiterate, Magecraft is the process of manipulating our world in ways that oppose natural law. In essence, we're tapping into the root's power, from which everything originates. And while our fuel comes in the form of magical energy or mana, there's one important trigger that ties it all together. Mystics, or mystery, is the vague concept that allows mana to transform nature. Essentially, mystery refers to the unknown, or something that is hidden from knowledge. In other words, mystery is the process through which the unknown holds power. Dreams, fantasies, legends, mythology, religion, superstition, all of these are the product of our splendor when observing a world we have yet to understand. With no other choice, we invoke our faith and imagination to explain things in supernatural ways. The root empowers this process, granting truth to our beliefs, regardless of their scientific merit. It is not unlike how children learn of Santa Claus. The stories and mystique hinge around the concept that those who do not believe in Santa cannot see him. This may just be a convenient way of obscuring the truth for young children, but conceptually, it matches the precarious nature of our craft. A sincere belief in the supernatural is what allows it to exist. Even if it sounds ridiculous, even if your better judgment is thoroughly educated, the possibility lingering in the back of your mind is the gateway through which spells are conceived. Paradoxically, mystery has value because it is mysterious. To expose its secrets would render it powerless. It would no longer be a mystery. Back during the Age of Gods, mystery thrived because supernatural explanations were taken just as seriously, if not more so, than empirical research. Widespread belief in gods actually allowed them to exist, which in turn made it easier to believe in them. By its very nature, however, mystery is destined to perish as man seeks to study and understand things on a deeper level. Oddly then, the more you know about a god, the less real it becomes. This doesn't happen with science. The more you learn about, say, gravity, the more you can take advantage of its consistent properties. It's not like understanding how objects fall suddenly makes them stop falling, but Magecraft is peculiar in that it does fade the more we accumulate knowledge. Imagine trying to read a book that vanishes as you turn its pages. By the time you've finished reading, the book would no longer even exist. How then can Magecraft be taught? Isn't the very idea of a school for Magecraft antithetical to its prosperity? Yes and no. Fortunately, there's a balance through which a few can learn at the expense of the many. Mages at the Clock Tower hone their craft knowing that the world at large isn't aware of it. Each mage family hones its own unique style of magecraft that remains strong by keeping it a secret from other mages. This is why Waver Velvet is seen as a controversial figure. He has a talent for breaking down and explaining how his colleagues create their spells. They understandably hate him for this, at least when they aren't benefiting from his lectures. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that Magecraft does indeed need to be taught for anyone to use it, but it's a delicate balance, and that teaching too much inherently makes it less useful. This forever makes the mage community a gated one. Science, or rather scientific inquiry, is Magecraft's worst enemy. The more about our world that we can explain with testable, tentative procedures, the less likely we are to accept supernatural explanations. The Big Bang, for instance, negates the need for a world creation myth. People may choose to believe in one anyway, at least for the sake of tradition, but now there's an extra mental urge to disregard it as mere folklore or just a quaint story. Society at large often benefits from knowing the truth, but from a mage's perspective, it's more like man is solidifying the truth, as other possibilities did once exist. Automata, for instance, could move freely on their own, but now our knowledge of human anatomy hinders that movement. The same goes for homunculi. The very idea that our bodies aren't mysterious can make it so that we can't even channel mana anymore. The answer isn't just to demonstrate Magecraft to the naysayers and scientists, as any spell you put under extreme scrutiny will cease to be. This process is, unfortunately, irreversible. The one exception is fame and legacy. Many myths and legends become more powerful the longer they remain popular. This applies most to heroic spirits. The more society recognizes them, the stronger they become. The distinction here is that society continues to learn about these heroes as mysterious figures. Even when historians debunk certain stories, the fantasy of it all lets us continue our beliefs anyway. For example, the veracity of King Arthur is hardly relevant to our everyday lives. Thus, there is little consequence to indulging in speculation of what could have been. In the same way, there are certain parts of Magecraft that, when taught amongst mages, solidify their presence, such as the idea behind thaumaturgical foundations. The logic here boils down to a shared understanding that certain topics remain more mysterious than others, and by building spells around those topics and themes, said spells can become more reliable. Again, this is all a delicate balance between what kind of knowledge spreads, to whom it spreads, and how that knowledge assimilates on a cultural level. To maintain this balance, the Mages Association began enforcing what is called the concealment of mystery. In practice, this meant mages would face consequences for acts that expose the secret society of mages to the public. Of course, there are times in the past where famous mages have curated mystery surrounding themselves, but that was when the average person believed in the supernatural in general. Said mages would walk the streets and offer their services to patrons and kings. Now, actively demonstrating Magecraft in a public setting only hastens its decline. You might be thinking this seems counterproductive. Wouldn't it be better for people to speculate on missing persons, crime scenes, and other bizarre phenomena? Doesn't letting the media write them off as gas leaks or accidents snuff out the only hope that people will suspect the supernatural? Well, the fear is that said suspicion would lead to legitimate investigation, the results of which would be shared across the globe. Sure, news of a man who can conjure flames from thin air would spread like, well, wildfire. But as more and more people began to scrutinize this ability in favor of what science would suggest, that mage would quickly find himself unable to control fire anymore. Ultimately, it would become a brief sensation, consumed and processed by the masses until it lost all novelty. Thus, we are left gaslighting the masses into more plausible explanations, which, while it certainly isn't ideal, is considered better than the alternative. By far, one of the most difficult things to conceal is a Holy Grail war. Fuyuki, Japan is far from the boonies, and it can seem nearly impossible to cover up the more destructive bouts between servants. Because of this, the association relies on help from the Holy Church. Overseers aren't just supposed to facilitate a fair competition. They actively intervene when there's a threat of being exposed. Kirei Kotomine had to cover up the truth when Homurahara Academy fell victim to Medusa's blood fort Andromeda. His father, Risei Kotomine, had to offer command spells to whomever could stop Bluebeard's rampage. Those who bore witness to Gilles de Ray's eldritch monster had to be hypnotized through suggestion. Sometimes, when the casualties are few, witnesses to Magecraft are simply killed off, just like Shiro Emiya was for accidentally witnessing a battle between servants. Unfortunately, the existing tools mages use to conceal mystery are becoming less and less effective. Social media and high-definition video make it much harder to hide the truth. Good luck explaining when Gilgamesh leaves behind a massive crater in the desert. What story will you spin when Richard the Lionheart confesses on live television his crime of destroying an opera house? Just how gullible can the people of Snowfield be? To survive, mages will have to adapt to the times, coming up with new techniques. Fortunately, younger generations are less trusting of modern news outlets, making misinformation online that much easier to spread. The use of AI has become so mainstream that it can be hard to tell whether a video is real or not. One would think this speculation could bring about a new era of mystery, if not for the fleeting nature of memes and other social media trends. Because of people's limited attention spans, there's likely more mystery surrounding the early internet with urban legends and creepypastas. That said, I can't help but imagine mystery allowing the backrooms to come to life. Regardless, the decline of mystery still seems inevitable, though there are places on Earth less affected by it. Subterranean locales, such as Albion, retain a higher concentration of mystery, with ancient artifacts holding greater power. Britain, filled to the brim with legends, took much longer for its mystery to fade. The same applies to Japan, because even though many would consider the current population functionally atheist, there remains a strong tradition of worshipping superstitious kami and yokai. This all has some exceptions, situations where Magecraft persists even in the public domain. Spiritron technology seems mostly unaffected. Thus, our craft carries on by hacking into the moon cell. Chaldea's tools not only operate on Spiritrons, but they can also send masters back in time where mystery was at its peak. Other worlds have endured without concealing Magecraft. In one, following the events of World War III, there exists a society where all humans possess their own holy grails, as well as servants. That said, there's no guarantee a revolutionary change in our own world would guarantee that mystery prevails. In summation, all Magecraft relies on the concept of mystery, where power emerges from the unknown. This allows supernatural phenomena to exist, so long as we sincerely believe them. Science, however, provides us with a stronger, more consistent understanding of the world. By condemning the supernatural to a place of mere fantasy, modern humans have unintentionally weakened the mystery mages currently rely on. To allow Magecraft to at least survive in the shadows, the Mages Association enforces a policy which criminalizes exposing spells to the general public. While it might sound like revealing Magecraft to the masses would rekindle mystery, there's a strong fear it'll do the opposite. Thus, the association continues to hide their existence, just as individual mages keep their own techniques a secret. Despite the inevitable end of mystery, we mages stubbornly press on. For our next lesson, I want to shine a spotlight on one of the more enduring kinds of mystery. It is a theme that echoes throughout all of human history, featured in countless legends. Of course, I'm referring to motherhood, specifically our world's great mothers and incarnations of the general Earth Mother Goddess. I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters: Video Gamer 75, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Mystic Samurai 1983, Otaku Mom, Free Brick, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Lunarworks, Link Pendrago, Observer Bellis, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Crow Calum, Saul Soto, Matal Mataru, Winter's Edge, Sneer Cachette, Foxbox, Alzinga Fagan, Caitlin P, Sith Lord 906, Vladimirovna, The Taz 96, Kengo X 77, and Alistair Bernadotte. Thank you all so much.